"Do you always feel like Tony has your back?" I asked. She said, "Yeah." I followed up, "You always feel like you can count on him no matter what?" She answered, "Yes." I said, "That's how I felt about David." And she replied, "Well, yeah, you should." Then she asked, "Oh, you didn't feel like that with Dad?" I told her, "I didn't know. I want every woman to feel this kind of confidence, to feel this loved, this cared for, and this secure. Because I know how terrible it feels not to have that, and it's horrible." Hello friends, welcome back to my channel. Brown Woolley, now going by Kody Woolley, is married to David Woolley. She's also a survivor of Kody Brown, of a polygamous cult, and of a life that, for more than 5 decades, kept her from realizing how much more she deserved. She's now in the process of unraveling that life, sorting through everything she experienced, piecing together the moments, and beginning to ask herself, what did I spend all those years doing? And what does all of this mean for what comes next? Like many women who leave polygamy, Kody is adjusting to the highs and lows of entering a whole new life. She's working to understand the past, what she was told, what she once believed was normal, and seeing how far from actual normalcy it really was. Remember how the show used to present polygamy and monogamy as if they were somehow equal? Kody is beginning to recognize that they are absolutely not the same, not even close. She's finally seeing the differences for what they are, especially when it comes to trust, support, and closeness. With David, she's beginning to understand what it means to fully trust someone. She's learning what it feels like to depend on someone who gives her steady, unconditional support. For the first time, she feels genuinely valued. Her entire adult life with Kody was shaped by the constant feeling of not being enough. She didn't feel loved. She didn't feel noticed, appreciated, beautiful, or safe. She spent decades with a man and never once felt like he truly had her back. That kind of existence is devastating. No woman should stay in a relationship where she doesn't feel safe, seen, supported, or important. Kody now claims that the mothers of his children alienated him from them, but that's just not true. He's admitted himself that he barely had a relationship with his kids while they were growing up. Yet, for years, the story presented was that Kody was this incredible, ever-present father. What people rarely talked about, though, was the matter of intimacy. There was always this silent, unacknowledged truth. Everyone knew he was sleeping with all of the women. How else would he have had children with them? But even so, showing affection in public was off-limits. They weren't allowed to kiss, hold hands, or show emotional closeness around the other sister wives. What's odd is that while they followed that rule off-camera, they broke it openly on the show. Private moments between Kody and each wife were aired on television. So while they claimed to honor the rule, they were violating it in full view of the public. Suddenly, the women who had never seen Kody interact with the others could now watch it play out on screen. That must have been shocking, finally being able to see what went on in the other marriages when he wasn't with you. It must have been a rude awakening. Of course, being exposed to the outside world contributed to all of this. But just imagine spending your whole life in isolation, within a system that kept your relationship behind closed doors and denied you any insight into how your husband treated the other wives. Kody's relationship with Kody was private. So were Janelle's and Mary's. None of them really knew what was going on in the other marriages. But when the show aired, they all had front row seats. And when you see how differently Kody treated one wife compared to the others, especially with Robin, you can't help but start comparing. They always preached, don't compare. But how is that even possible? If you see your husband showering another woman with affection that he never gave you, it changes how you see everything. Sure, that probably sparked jealousy. But more than that, it led to a new sense of clarity. It made them start to think about intimacy in a new way. It made them realize, he never kissed me like that, or he never looked at me like that. That awareness that the way he treats you isn't how he treats someone else can be painful and eye-opening. There's no question that watching that intimacy unfold on screen had a huge impact. And now, Kody is finally admitting that she can't believe she ever accepted being in a relationship with a man who is sexually involved with other women. She reflects, saying, "We used to have a lot of fun. we focused on the fun part, not the romantic part. She remembers how sometimes Kody would give all of them flowers in front of each other and kiss each one. She even wondered, were all the bouquets the same? Because he'd sometimes call one of them babe and then kiss each of them in turn. It was awkward, very awkward. Looking back, she finds it surreal that she spent all those years married to a man who was physically intimate with and kissed other women, and that she accepted that. Because that was the culture. That's what they did. And now she says, I can't believe I was okay with that for so many years. They worked hard to make it seem normal, as though it was simply a different kind of lifestyle. But in truth, the absence of intimacy in those relationships was obvious. There was hardly any real connection. Nobody truly knew each other on a deep level because everything remained on the surface. While watching the show, there were moments when it was painfully clear they didn't really know each other. And if they did, they certainly acted like they didn't. Genuine, vulnerable conversations about feelings or struggles were almost non-existent. Christine often confessed that she disliked discussing emotions or relationship issues. When she reflects on how Kody would hand out flowers on Valentine's Day, she describes how he'd walk into the house with a bunch of bouquets and give them to each wife in front of the others. He'd kiss each one and say, "Happy Valentine's Day." It was always an uncomfortable experience. Now, she says, I can't believe I was okay with that. She repeats it, clearly shocked by her past acceptance. I can't believe I was okay with being with a man who kissed other women and had intimate relationships with them, and I was just okay with it. That repetition speaks volumes. And honestly, the more distance she gains from that life, the more likely she'll eventually admit, I wasn't actually okay with it. Because even now, she follows that with, but I was okay with it because of the culture. It's what we were expected to accept. But if she was truly okay with it, if she really believed that, then watching him kiss another woman in front of her shouldn't have been so painful, right? She talks about how she didn't really feel jealousy until Robin entered the picture. That's when everything shifted. She remembers being completely shocked when she first found out Kody had kissed Robin. Wait, what? You're not even married yet. Why are you kissing her? She was genuinely taken aback. Kody's reaction? He reminded her that their own first kiss happened at the altar, in front of the other wives, and that it had been awkward. She agreed it was. Then he added, we even talked about how next time I got married, you suggested we kiss beforehand. She recalls saying, I know, but I didn't think it would happen. And I didn't think it would hurt this much. It seems Christine managed to stay in that early, idealized honeymoon stage longer than the others, like Mary and Janelle. Mary's time with Kody was brief before Janelle joined the family, and once she did, things shifted quickly. Reality set in not long after. Then Christine came into the family, and it doesn't seem like Kody and Janelle's relationship ever had the opportunity to fully develop. Once Christine was in the picture, Kody redirected much of his attention and affection toward her. As the third wife and the newest addition, Christine essentially became the favorite, even though Mary was the first wife, held the legal marriage, and was supposed to be the head wife. The fact that Kody didn't bring in another wife for years after Christine, and Christine's own admission that things felt fine until Robin came along, indicates that her relationship with Kody must have been decent for a time. Otherwise, she wouldn't have stayed, and she wouldn't have said she didn't feel jealousy. It's hard to imagine there was truly no jealousy before Robin. But the difference with Robin was that she entered the family after Christine had finished having children. That marked a major shift for Christine. She realized she was being replaced. In that culture, women were expected to have children. That was their main role. And once they were done having babies, their value diminished. That's why Kody stopped putting time and effort into relationships with wives who could no longer bear children. In his eyes, their role was to serve him and expand his kingdom through offspring. Whenever a new wife came in who could still have children, she immediately became the center of attention. Robin was about 10 years younger than the other wives and went on to have at least 2 children with him. It's honestly surprising she didn't have more. But Christine's reaction wasn't only about jealousy. It was about feeling discarded. She could accept everything until it happened to her. That same situation had already played out with Janelle. It had already happened to Mary. And they weren't okay with it either. Honestly, I don't think any of them ever truly were. If they had been, they wouldn't have needed to hide public displays of affection. If Kody could have openly kissed any of his wives in front of the others and nobody felt upset, then maybe they would have genuinely been okay with it. But that was never the case. The affection had to be hidden because seeing him kiss someone else caused real pain. That alone proves that they were never truly at peace with the arrangement. Their inner voice was screaming, "This is not okay." Eventually, Christine will come to a place where she says it more directly. But even now, it's incredibly powerful to hear her say, "I can't believe I was ever okay with that. I can't believe I was ever with someone who slept with other women." Honestly, go Christine. Seriously, go Christine. Meanwhile, Kody has been struggling to connect with his kids. He says things like, "I'm different, I'm not in the home, they don't know how to define me. They haven't had much connection, so I'm trying to build something new where I'm not represented to them by their moms." Christine insists, "I don't talk badly about Kody to the kids. Ever. I really don't. I wish he would reach out more. I wish he had stronger relationships with them. I've done everything I can to help make those connections happen. I'll be honest, I don't like the men who practice polygamy. Especially not the arrogant ones who choose to be unkind. That being said, I understand that some men follow this path because of their faith. They truly believe in God and think they're living righteously. Some of them are so steeped in the doctrine that they genuinely feel obligated to live this way. In that sense, they too can be victims, though they still hold significantly more power than the women and often become the ones who inflict serious harm. The lifestyle and the religion that upholds it is abusive. That belief system is toxic. The pressures it puts on both men and women are intense. Some men leave and eventually become more self-aware, more honest with themselves, and begin to truly reflect on their roles in the harm that was caused. But Kody's a different story. He's walking away from this lifestyle, still clinging to excuses. He refuses to own what he did. He lacks insight. He lacks maturity. He lacks empathy. And he clearly lacks compassion for the people he's hurt. His refusal to confront the consequences of his behavior or even acknowledge the emotional damage he caused says a lot. The way he avoids accountability is a serious warning sign. As far as I'm concerned, even though he's technically out of polygamy, it's obvious he hasn't and won't change. There are men who've left that life carrying deep shame, full of regret for how they treated their wives and how they failed their children. They feel an overwhelming sense of remorse. I know of one man in particular, his daughter talks to me, who has taken full responsibility for the harm he caused. He carries a tremendous amount of guilt, but he accepts that he was a poor husband and an absent father. He doesn't see conversations with his kids as attacks. He's willing to face the truth of what he did. Kody, on the other hand, shows no real empathy. No genuine remorse. His ego is in the way. Even when he admits to saying cruel or hateful things about the women or his children, he always follows it up with an excuse. In this episode, he says, "Well, I said all these things because of my ego. I said I didn't love them. I said I didn't care about them. I said I only did this for religion. I said it was all trash. I said terrible things about me." But then he tries to explain it away. So he's not actually sorry. Because if his ego really were the problem, he'd recognize that and take action to humble himself. He would begin to truly grow. Yet in the same breath he makes these so-called confessions, he actually says that his identity was built on his wives and children admiring him. "I got my identity from them saying I was awesome, and from telling my kids I was awesome, and from having my kids tell me I was awesome. And now they're gone, and they're saying I'm a piece of trash. I don't blame them. I was saying they were a piece of trash. I was telling you I didn't love them." But what Kody doesn't understand is that he's completely missing the bigger picture. He says, "I don't blame them for calling me a piece of trash. I was calling them that." But he's not engaging with the real reason they feel that way. He doesn't hear the actual criticisms, doesn't acknowledge his specific actions, or the emotional trauma he created. He's not thinking about what it was like for his family to suffer while he prioritized his ego and his need for praise. He openly said he was fine with a situation where everyone else suffered, as long as he felt worshipped. Everyone had to revere him.
He was okay with that.
He was fine with not having genuine relationships with his kids. He admitted that he didn't really know his children because he wasn't there. He came and went while they lived their lives. And when he was present, he only interacted through the wives. He wasn't even what you'd call a part-time dad. In these polygamous homes, when the husband shows up, he gets the special cup, the special plate, the special meal. Everything revolves around making his visit feel significant. But that's not what real family life looks like. One day a week doesn't make a father. And when everyone's just trying to impress him and be thankful he even bothered to show up, he doesn't have to do anything to grow as a person. That's the core issue. He refuses to admit that all the hurt he caused served one purpose: to feed his own ego. And Kody would have been perfectly content with things staying exactly as they were, because he was being glorified. The only reason he started reacting with anger and resentment was because they stopped fueling that ego. Didn't leave any of these women. They left him. And even now, he's still trying to control the narrative while refusing to own up to his mistakes. As Janelle pointed out, he won't admit his failures. His failure was being a neglectful father. His failure was having more children than he could handle. His failure was taking on more relationships than he could sustain. He ignored his kids, ignored his wives, and shirked his responsibilities. He was abusive, controlling, demeaning, and cruel, all because his ego convinced him he was untouchable. He expected to be worshipped and believed he could treat people however he wanted without consequence. Even now, he twists the story saying, "They left me because of what I did. I told them I didn't love them." No, Kody. You acted the way you did because you thought you could get away with it. The truth? You did whatever you wanted. You hurt them. You abused them. You belittled them. You screamed at them. You called your own children horrible names. You said you never wanted to speak to them again. When your child passed away, you weren't there. And now, on TV, you have the audacity to say, "I forgive them."
No.
They have nothing to apologize for. You're still the same egomaniac. In this episode, he proved himself to be dishonest and repulsive. And Christine? She's finally realizing how degrading it was to ever share him with other women. And honestly, who can blame her? What do you think about all of this? Let me know in the comments. Don't forget to like this video, subscribe if you haven't already, and hit the bell so you never miss an update. Thanks for watching. See you next time.